Hey, what's up? This is DustinTheGrinch with Game Tato, and today I want to talk about the top 10 video game controllers of all time. Video games are usually the showcase of the discussion here, but today we're going to talk about the input devices and basically the way we as gamers communicate with our games. Some devices do a better job of this, letting us immerse ourselves in the game and forget that reality exists. Other controllers have clunky buttons, like the Sega Saturn controller with spongy interfaces, or the GameCube controller with the Z button and not a ZLZR. Some of these controllers just take me out of the experience a little bit, but that's why they're not top 10, or that's why they're not as highly ranked. So let's dive in to the top 10 game controllers of all time, in my opinion. So in 10th place, we got the Nintendo GameCube controller. Shit. In 10th place, we have the Wii U controller. Now, a lot of people didn't like this thing, but I absolutely love this controller. Playing Breath of the Wild on it is amazing. Playing any game on this thing is amazing. I just wish there were more games for it. I have pretty much every game that's worth owning. I love the Wii U. Ooh, burping. Ooh. Amazing controller though. Incredible to play games on. 9th place, we got the GameCube controller. I mean, this is a great controller. It's still being used today in Smash Brothers tournaments. The Wii U even has an adapter to make this controller work with it. I mean, this is an incredible controller. It has a lot of weird features. It feels great in your hand. I love the C-stick nub. I love the orientation of the buttons. The only real problem with the controller is it doesn't have a ZL. It only has a ZR. Which is like, what the hell, Nintendo? Give me an even amount of buttons. But this is a legendary controller coming in at number 9. I don't even need to tell anybody about this controller. You probably know so much about it. So let's move on. Coming in at 8th place, we got the DualShock 3. Finally, Sony came out with the good wireless controller that was low enough latency, and it had pressure-sensitive buttons still. I mean, this was a game changer for Sony. I love this controller, and it really got me involved with the PlayStation brand and led me to want to get back into the PS2 and the PS1. So the PlayStation 3 DualShock 3 is a great controller. Actually, let's get into some negatives, another one. Because the triggers on this, are the reason why it's not higher ranked on my list. I wish it would have been a little bit better. And then, I don't know, there's like not enough resistance in the thumbsticks like a DualShock 4. And it's just, I don't like this design of the mushroom tip joystick. I don't know, there's something about it I don't like. But it's still a great controller overall. One of the best of all time. 7th place, we got the Sega Saturn UFO controller. And I love this thing. It doesn't matter if you play fighting games on it, 3D games. You can lose yourself so easily on this controller. And if all the games are designed for it, which they all work perfectly if you just slide the little slider to choose which type of game you're playing on this thing. It's amazing. Like, you could tell where they got the inspiration for the Dreamcast controller with this one. It's amazing. Next, we got the Xbox Model S controller. And I love this thing. It's great. I play a lot of Xbox on this thing. I've been getting into collecting, so I've been really using this controller a lot, and I really like it. But I hate the orientation of the white. Like, why did they make the white and the black like smaller? Like, why didn't they just make it like the same size as the face buttons and then put it, in the right spot? That would have been nice right there. And then also, it's like, if they didn't put triggers on this thing, so it's kind of like, whatever. But it's a very nice controller and one of the best of all time. If you play Shenmue 2 or Togi or True Crime, Streets of LA, or any of the Grand Theft Autos, I mean, you're gonna love playing on this controller. It's awesome. Like Xbox, when they got in the game, they got in the game strong. They really did. Alright, now coming in at 5th place is the mother freaking Big Duke. This is the game that made me want to get off the PC and start playing first-person shooters on a console. When I saw the Duke the first time, I thought it was a monstrosity of just beefiness, but then I used it to play Halo, and it changed my life. Microsoft came in with such a good controller, and if you notice, they even got, I'm trying to find on the controller, the white buttons. They're in the right spots. It's like perfect. If you're gonna play fighting games on a Duke, fighting games are really fun to play on this thing. Anything, like the Duke is the ultimate if you don't have tiny little girly hands. This is a man's controller. I love the Duke. 5th place. Bam. Fond memories. And I even have more fond memories with this controller. The Super Nintendo. It has simplicity. The triggers, I don't know, there's some clickiness to it that just, it feels dreamy. It has like the right clickiness when you touch a button. The buttons feel great. The top buttons are concaved, so they feel different than the bottom buttons. The D-pad has just an amazing feeling. Like if you're used to playing like Street Fighter 2 from back in the day, I mean, this is what you want to play it on. I had blisters playing on this thing. And last of all, it has a perfect shape, and the start and select buttons are just in the perfect locations. I mean, coming in at number 4, Nintendo really rocked the Caspaw with the Super Nintendo controller. Amazing coming in at number 4. Now we got the DualShock 4. No pun intended. Sony really fixed a lot of their design flaws with this controller. They put a touchpad in, which really gave menus a quicker interface, or if you're going to be in maps, it's really nice. I don't know, they gave a nice feel to the concave, like, I mean, it's not even concave anymore, it's like a shell. But it's not very durable, so I buy thumb little sticks to cover it. That is a flaw of this controller. But they finally fixed their trigger design. It's amazing now. Playing first-person shooters on a DualShock 4 is really fun now. I have no problem in losing myself on this controller due to just shitty buttons that have a shitty feel, like the DualShock 3 and the triggers. I hated those triggers. The rest of the controller was great, but the triggers were shitty. Where the DualShock 4 is almost perfect all around. If it had haptic feedback in the buttons and the triggers, it would be higher in my list. Which is why the Xbox One controller is where it is. I love this controller. I lose myself in it. It's such a great controller. It's one of the best of all time. Microsoft really outdid themselves with the haptic feedback. Like, for example, when I'm playing Forza and my tires are losing traction, I can feel whether I'm losing it or not in the triggers. Or if I'm playing a first-person shooter, I could feel the click of my bullets inside of the gun being fired. And if they're being fired too fast and I feel it, then I can start clicking slower to get my gun to calm down, and I can feel my bullets coming out of the gun through the triggers. Microsoft, like, your controller design is amazing. Like, you guys are dominating my list just because these controllers are flawless. Like, you can lose yourself so easily on this. It's amazing. And it's just a shame that you kind of messed up the RB and LB, because it kind of feels funny. And then I don't like the clickiness of the D-pad. I wish it was tiny bit more spongy. It's like there's a difference between too spongy and not spongy enough, and this is too clicky for me. You know, it feels more of like a, it's not good for fighting games. I don't like this. But it's good for like as a button, but it's not good for fighting, it just doesn't feel right. But it's a great controller, second best of all time. Give it up for Microsoft and the Xbox One controller. Amazing. And this is the revision 2 that has the 3.5mm jack that fixes the stupid problem. So I can't knock it anymore. Microsoft fixed their problem. And my top controller of all time is the Xbox 360 controller, and that's just because this controller feels right. It has the perfect RB and LB. I love the D-pad, it feels great. When I play first-person shooters on this thing, I'm killing it. The shape of this controller is perfect for my hand. Every button feels right. I wish it had pressure-sensitive buttons like the DualShock 3. For the Xbox One follow-up after the Scorpio, if they could go back a little bit to the 360 controller, but add haptic feedback in all of the buttons, that would be sick as hell, and add pressure sensitivity, then you have the ultimate controller of all time. And if you add a touchpad on this bad boy instead of the Xbox button, then you have the true ultimate. And then if they come out with an Elite, so they just have the triggers on the back and you want to customize it further with more vibrators in it or more motors, then that's your prerogative if you want to spend more to get even a better controller. But the Xbox 360 controller is the Gametato pick of all time, best controller. I've had many fond memories playing on this thing, and I'm sure I'm gonna have many more. So have a good one, and I hope you enjoyed this video on my best or my most liked controllers of all time. Like and subscribe, and I love doing these videos for you guys, and I want to keep it up and making better videos. Let me know what you like, or if there's any content that you want me to produce, and we'll try to make that happen as soon as we can for you. Gametato.
Wasn't afraid to pull it. Heel skirts and weeds, drank some trees, low photos and hoes on their knees. You better off fucking with the Bloods and Crips, cause it's like Chris Goel on the marble floor in LA, you're bound to slip. And we go around to stay on the grind, born to shine. Pomona City riders in the game committing true crime.